Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to One Day Today. This is episode 81. We are in March already. That happened quick. Well, I'm so glad to have you all with us. I'm really excited to have our guests with us today. But I'll start with an inquiry. Who am I? Who are you? How do we it's like from our experiences in our lives, how do we come to determine what that means? Most of my life, I had a story about who I was, growing up, a quarter black, half Jewish Italian kid. My experience, I was bullied for being fat. My experience was I didn't fit in. I didn't know where to belong. And, I had a victim mentality about a lot of it. And a lot of my idea and my story about myself was limiting. I've discovered in my own experiences, in my own life. I've come to discover, the things that I told myself, my ideas about myself, my ideas about God it's just an idea. Who I am is not limited to the thoughts in my head. They're not limited to my emotions. They're not limited to my body. And who you are is much greater than your thoughts about yourself. And that's what we hold in this space. We hold this space for you to share the gift that you are, because no matter who you are, where you're from, what color you are, who you pray to or don't pray to, your unique experiences, your unique life story has something to contribute to us all. As Matthew, our co-host, always says, on the other side of our trauma lies wisdom. We want to share the wisdom and insight and transformative experiences of your life that have allowed you to discover you. How did you see through all the they say the lonesome valley or the dark night of the mind that led to the bright night of the soul? How did that open up for you? In this new age of the world and this new experience with COVID, the pandemic, with the civil unrest, the political polarity, in my experience, in my opinion, there's never been a bigger opening for connection, for community, for collaboration. And it's our experience in our life is like a garden. Whatever we focus on is what grows. We can focus on the beauty in the flowers and fruits, that in our experience, and they'll grow, and we'll see them grow. But we can also focus on the weeds and the toxic emotions, the toxic thoughts, and those grow too when we focus on them. And as I've referred to a lot, Mr. Rogers said, when times of tragedy and times of trauma, his mom would always say to him, "Look to the helpers, look to the people lifting others up," because there's always those people who, no matter what chaos is ensuing in the world, there's others that are lifting people up and just reminding us of the beauty in humanity and in us all. And really, humans, what I see, we are like diamonds and pearls. It's under the pressure in the chaos in our lives that allows our beauty to shine through. So welcome. I am so happy to have you all here. So I'm going to jump right in and welcome our guest today. We have with us Robert Butwin.
Hey,
welcome, Robert.
Thank you, and I'm really grateful to be here. And you started off with a simple question: who am I? And that really started me to think. As I sit back and I reflect back from where I came from to where I am today, and let me share with you a little bit about that journey. Because we all have a journey. And as far as who I am today is not who I thought I was when I started that journey. And let me tell you a little bit about it. I grew up in a very high quality, what people might want to say the right side of the tracks. From as far back as I could remember, I always felt I was an entrepreneur. In fact, I know I'm an entrepreneur, but as the journey started way back, I had the paper routes, I cut grass, shoveled snow, you name it. I always loved making money. And ultimately, our family started the high school award cheerleading jacket business in the 1930s. I was the oldest son of My dad who was running it, my grandmother still um, had control of the business, even though she was never there. And all of a sudden, we started taking my cousins into the business, and some of my cousins really were going for the path of least resistance. They weren't necessarily performers, and I had one of those defining moments, which sort of really shifted everything that I am today. And I came to the realization that I needed to leave their family business. There was just too much family in the family business, and it was my family. So when I started my journey, I came across a CD series by um, Wayne Dyer. So I said CD actually was a tape series, a cassette tape series, to show you how far back that was. And it talked about, and the name of it was A No Limit Person. And what I really got from that was that the limits that existed in my life, I was responsible for them being there, which was major because, see, once you take responsibility for what is, you can take it for what will be. But unfortunately, most people are in a state of denial. And I love the acronym of denial, which is don't even notice I am lying. And they're lying to themselves by not taking responsibility. So when I came across that, because part of who we were was some of the programs that we allowed to exist, which you were talking about, Abraham. I was always told I was a slow reader. I always realized I was going to go in our family business. I always saw my vision of running the family business. And when I came to the reality that that wasn't going to be the case, I'm looking to shift, I'm looking to pivot. And all of a sudden, I came across a different methodology of being able to learn, listening to cassette tapes, because I was very much of an auditory person. So I started out going out and trying to gain as much knowledge as I could. And one of the things early on that I came across was Michael Gerber's cassette called The E-Myth. And in The E-Myth, he talks about 4 to 5 businesses are going to fail in your first 5 years. And of the 20% of them that make it 25%, he said, don't breathe a sigh of relief because four to five of you are going to fail in the next 5 years. So then I started to listen to my self-talk because I said to myself, not me, that's not an option. And that was the first time I really became conscious and aware of the fact that how I talk to myself. Because when I started in business, failure wasn't an option. And I continually poured more and more information into my mind because I wanted to make sure that I would be successful. By the way, one of the reasons he said that most businesses fail is because they're working in the business, not on their business. They get caught up in the activity trap. They find a job for themselves, and they don't understand marketing. They don't understand, or they might not become conscious and aware of how the market has changed and how they need to change it. I mean, there's multiple different reasons why businesses fail. But then I came across, and this is really getting to the point of who I am today. One of the key things that really changed my life, a couple of things. One of them was listening to Jim Rohn, and I love Jim Rohn. I listened and I listened and I continue to listen because, again, I knew that I had to make major changes. And he talked about it. You want to work harder on yourself than in your job. And so I continually worked harder myself. And then something I came across was by Dr. Robert Anthony, Beyond Positive Thinking. And this was instrumental in many different reasons. Because one of the things that he said is we all have certain lessons we're supposed to learn. Until we learn that lesson, life will continually trip you up in the lesson you're supposed to learn. And I guess I am just a slow learner because I continually, until just recently, came to the understanding that I got tired of repeating this pattern of continually learning this one lesson of allowing, unfortunately, because I've got a good heart and I always want to help people, I would have people take advantage of me and to the point where, and yes, you want to contribute, but you don't want to allow people to continually take advantage of you. And then one of my mentors, a lady by the name of Doris Wood, talked about experiences. And she said, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. The point is, do your experiences validate the fact that you're not worthy of that, or do you use your experiences as a stepping stone? Because for the most part, and I've been very successful as an entrepreneur from the time I pivoted, it's like I look at myself as psychologically unemployable. I have not had a job since September 7th, 1990, when I was able to walk away from our family business. But I gained certain experiences that has allowed me to become the person I am today. And part of what I remember, and this is going back to who I am today, what Robert Anthony in the book Beyond Positive Thinking, and by the way, you can get it for free on YouTube. I mean, it's amazing. When I started, all the money I put into personal growth and developments, the CDs, the cassettes I bought and listened to, the books I read, you can virtually get them all for free. It's a lot easier, I believe, to become successful today than it ever has been. But the bottom line is, one of the things I remember from the book by Dr. Robert Anthony, it's like at the end of your life, at the end of your life, when you're going to meet your maker, it's like, are you going to be able to reflect back and know that you've done the best that you've done? And that's one of the guiding principles of who I am today. It's like, I want to know that my life was really worth living. We're all going to have two B days, a birthday and a box day. And in between there is a dash. It's like, how are you able to live on once you're beyond your physical body? One of the things that Jim Rohn said, I heard it from Kyle Wilson, which was Jim Rohn's promotion manager just recently. He said he wanted to trade a few people that had a major impact on millions of people. I want to focus my life on being able to know that I was able to help people, because I think where we are, in the evolution of where the planet is today, that is needed more than ever before. We need to be able, I mean, it's like, you take a look at all the craziness and all the things that are going on, and I see a really bright future. About 20 years ago, when I was in Tiananmen Square in China, I had this premonition. A lot of the stuff that I've done is based on leverage business models. And I had this premonition based on the fact that through different leverage business models, through network marketing, through MLM, that it would have a very positive impact on world peace. Because the more that we realize there is no borders, that we can have relationships with people all around the world, there is no prejudices, everything that's going on, the more that we are able to shift consciousness to the point that we're all brothers and sisters. God made all of us in his likeness. And the point is, the more that we embrace it and help shift consciousness, and that's how I look at who I am today. I'm out to make a difference. I'm out to be able to help people um, realize that they've got greatness within themselves. A lot of the stuff I've been doing in different social medias, everything from LinkedIn to Clubhouse to different networking groups. And one of the people I met in LinkedIn, and the reason I like to tell this story, he was a futurist, and his name was Joe Baker. And when I met him, he happened to be, as I got to know him, he happened to be a teacher at the same high school, and he was a teacher of one of my younger brothers. And he introduced me to, I think it was a lady by the name of Wesley Isley, and it's about the star thrower. And it's about this young boy, as he was walking on the beach, he sees off into the distance a man bending over, straightening up, bending over, straightening up, wondering what he's doing. He walks closer and closer to this man. And as he gets in front of him, he says, Mister, what are you doing? He says, I'm saving the starfish, as he throws one back into the ocean. And this young boy looks across the beach. He sees thousands of starfish. And he says, Mister, you're never going to make a difference. And as the man, without stopping, he bends it down again, picks up another one, throws it into the ocean. He said, I made a difference to that one. We can all make a difference. We can all choose. Life is about our choices. What I learned, it doesn't matter where you start in life. I met a lot of people that have come from a lot different kinds of a situation that I grew up, but it doesn't matter where you start in life. It doesn't matter where you are now. Here's the key: the direction you're headed and where you choose to end up, what you choose to do. Do you choose to live life big? Do you choose to make a difference? And that's what really how I look at myself and what I'm doing. I really want to help anybody that I can, where I can, figure out how they can make a difference. So, I mean, I could go on and on. I'm not sure how much more you really want me to talk about. If we want to take a break.
Well, I mean, that was a powerful share. I mean, we could just talk about what you shared, because there's so much gold in what you shared. And I mean, what you're talking about, denial. When I first heard that acronym and I really got it, it really spoke to me, because how much responsibility I've avoided in my life without even realizing it. To protect my identity, to protect this story of myself, and really the survival of what I perceived to be myself. It was really, I guess, ultimately my ego and my identity. But I think that's so powerful when we can choose, like what you said at the end is like the choice we have. I feel like that's the biggest hurdle, is recognizing that we actually have a choice.
Definitely, when the pandemic hit, everybody had to make different choices. You could sit back and be a victim, or you could be the victor. And my focus
Mm,
was, how can I teach other people to do what I'm not doing? How can I connect with other people in an authentic way if I'm not doing it? So, I reached out, I started focusing more on these networking Zooms. I mean, the new normal. What's going to be the new normal? I don't know if anybody really knows what's going to be the new normal, but um, I mean, obviously, we're going to. I'm really looking forward to we're on the other side of what we're at now. But in the
mhm.
meantime, I've gotten to be very used of meeting new people on the internet, on Zoom calls. There's so many people that I've been able to make connections with. I mean, that's realistically
Yeah,
when I met. We met in a Zoom call, and
right.
we're just developing. And our relationship will continually evolve as we get to know each other better and better. So, um, to me, I see a very bright future.
Yeah. What you're pointing to is kind of what I've seen as the collateral beauty of this pandemic. It's I feel like the illusion of separation is more apparent, in our communities, because there's so many well, it's so powerful how many, well, I'll put it this way, like, COVID really pointed us all to this, because everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's been at home. Everyone's been in quarantine. So we're all kind of recognizing the truth that, when I'm sick, it means my neighbor can be sick. When my neighbor's sick, it means I can be sick and my family can be sick. But the opposite's also true. If my neighbor is healthy, if my neighbor is safe and happy, me and my family can be healthy, safe, and have security. And it's like, and it's that the unseen connection is so much more apparent in this ever growing, ever connected world.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, Abraham. I mean, to me, I'm connecting with so many people. I've developed so many great relationships in COVID. I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
taking the precautions, I take a lot of nutritional products. I know my immune system's good. I mean, the three things I learned from the pandemic. Number one, the majority of the people that died had underlying health conditions. That's a clue. See, I've known for a long time. You know, about 35 years ago, I was listening or watching a TV program, 60 Minutes, and they talked about how the food companies hired people to make our foods addictive. So I realized that, and quite often I'll ask people the question, which is, do you believe the majority of the health conditions before the pandemic were food related? And 99.99% of them say yes. The second thing I learned from the pandemic is what people thought was secure
mm,
isn't as secure as they thought it. The need for more than one stream of income. You take a look at the economics that have happened with different people in the pandemic. The third thing I learned, even though it's a necessity, is how uncomfortable social distancing is and how crazy it is, but I do it, that you go out in public with a mask on. I mean, you think about it, before the pandemic, people that wore masks, you thought they're the bad guy. Now everybody's got these masks. But, again, it's the things that we learn, the insights, and I take a look at the good, not the negative, and how can we improve upon things.
Yeah. Right. I mean, then I really acknowledge your persistent spirit, and, just I mean, you sharing your story, it really shines through. It's with the obstacles that come opportunities, it's like, and it's just kind of in your own entrepreneurial spirit and how you've, come to be in what you're up to now and making such a contribution with people with your work and just who you're being, that there's something powerful to that, when we can willingly or accidentally end up in a chaotic situation like the state of the world and seek and see and sow seeds of opportunity for ourselves and our communities and our world. And I think that's something that, I mean, that's really been the opportunity in this pandemic for all of us to see not only that we have a choice, but we can each plant seeds of joy, of prosperity, of compassion, of love,
Right.
in every space we exist.
Yeah. It's like, and I alluded to this when I was talking before, again, it's like, as we're making connections, we can guide people to the information. So I've come up with the ABCs to success for almost anything and everything. And I also
Mm.
come up with the 5 A's in the law of attraction. But, let me real quickly, because obviously as an entrepreneur, I love helping people because I think people need to take responsibility. I really believe it's easier to become wealthy today than almost any other time in history for a variety of different reasons. But again, you can plug in information for free. I mean, there's so much good information out there. It's just knowing where to look. I mean, you can go to YouTube and listen to Jim Rohn or Wayne Dyer or The Big Leap or Beyond Positive Thinking or The One Thing. I mean, on and on and on. There's so much quality information. So it's just become aware. So the A for the ABC, it's ABCDE S squared to success in life as an entrepreneur, whatever it is aware of what you want, number one, and aware of what you need to change to make sure that you get to what you want. The affirmations, I talked about the self-talk. We can always start reprogramming. I had to reprogram myself because I realized, based on where I was once I came to that defining moment, and I've had more than one defining moment, that I needed to make a shift. I needed to make a change. So the first A is aware of what you want and aware of what you need to change to make sure you get what you want. For example, up until the end of last year, I was using a day timer. In fact, here was my day timer, the old-fashioned day timer, the notebook. And I realized I needed to change to the digital calendar. And it's really made a difference. I mean, that's just one little example, but we've all got things that we can change in relationship to what we're doing. The B is brand yourself. What is your brand? Based on what we want others to see us as, how we want to position ourselves. So be aware of your brand and be selective of whatever brand that you represent. C is consistency, constant and proper actions. I'm sure you probably watched or read the book, The Secret. And what The Secret talked about is the law of attraction. It brought to the consciousness that we can really all attract whatever we want to attract. What it didn't do is it didn't really give you the actions necessary. It wasn't really specific on the actions. So based on whatever you want to do, and again, everything is back to choices. We can, there's so many different ways. I mean, if you ever watch Shark Tank, for example, you see all different ways of people figuring out how to take control, take responsibility to make things happen. So it's the proper actions. My D is digitize your messaging. This is an example of a digital message. You're able to shift consciousness by, first of all, introducing it to the right people. Digital messaging can be everything from a blog to a book to a podcast to a webinar or just interviewing people. Anybody can get on Zoom. And let's take a look at when the pandemic hit and a couple examples. Zoom and Netflix stock at that point in time was about $10 a share. A few months later, it's now $500 a share approximately. So you're taking a look at what's going on and shifting your consciousness and becoming more aware. So anyhow, digitize your messaging. E is expose your message to the right audience based on what the message is. You can locate the right audience a lot easier because of technology. And S square is strategic planning. You've got to plan in relationship to what you're looking to attract or accomplish. And the other S in the S squared is systematize the acquisition of customers and retention of your customers, clients, patients, whatever. So again, to me, I want to help people realize there's so many different ways. Find what you love so that it doesn't feel like it's ever work. There's so many different ways that you can create whatever you want to create. I've seen so many different examples.
Yeah, I love that. And so help me unpack the first one. So for the A, awareness, and particularly just to give value to people listening. What is, like, for the people that know they want to contribute to something, but they're unsure. Where is my time and energy best spent? What is my gift? Like, what do I have to contribute? Like, when you were referring to like your reprogramming of yourself and your self-talk. How does one get there? How do you see, for people that are looking for that awareness, for that intention that they want to really stand in? How does one open up that door?
Well, there are different people that are willing to be mentors. I mean, Clubhouse is a great opportunity to connect with people. Some of these networking groups, and I've got a whole list of networking groups I'm happy to send to people, but the more that you search, there's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I turn to information. We've all got a screen of logic. If I say something that goes against your screen of logic, your resistance goes up. So it's just shifting your consciousness. My example is something like this. Imagine for a minute, I've got a glass of Coca-Cola in my left hand. In my right hand, I've got a pitcher of water. Okay? Now with the pitcher of water, I start pouring it in the glass of Coca-Cola that's full. And the more and more that the water displaces the Coca-Cola, that glass becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. So as far as how to be aware, think of something you like. And there's so many, you've got Google, you've got YouTube, all you have to do, those things are really search engines. Just put in what you think you like and start doing the searches to see what it is that you can become passionate about. Something that where whatever it might be, it's like, and I can guarantee you this, somebody at some level has become successful. They figured out how to crack the code in something similar to what would interest you. So search and you'll find it. Easy to do. Find people, ask questions. And as I believe in synchronicity. Sort of how you and I met. It's like we showed up, we made a choice, and we showed up at a networking event and we ended up in a breakout room together.
Right.
That's synchronicity. But if you're out searching and you've got some kind of idea of what you might want, and you don't, one of the things I learned a long time ago, flexibility with specific intent. Your flexibility is the fact that you know that there's something within yourself that you're not comfortable with. You might not know exactly what it is, but you know that you want to make some kind of change in a positive way. So start the process and figure out what you've got to give up. Again, part of the awareness of what you want, aware of what you need to change. Maybe you're spending too much time on the electronic income reducer, TV, or playing games, whatever that is. But be aware of the changes you need to make. For example, if you weigh too much, you're overeating, you might have to either change the type of food you eat or the quantity of foods that you eat if you want to get yourself in shape. So be aware of what you got to change and be aware of what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a very powerful point you're making. And it's like, it's kind of distinguishing between commitment versus an attachment to a specific income or to a specific outcome. And it's like, I was talking to someone about this a few months ago, and it's having it. It's great to have a goal, to have a specific goal. It's like, I know I want this. I want a house in Hawaii. I want it, and what's interesting about life, and this is a lesson I'm learning in my experience is, no matter where I'm headed and where I'm aiming at, usually the most impactful, important experiences of my life are the things that happen along that path. They're never actually at that destination. It's like it's the doors that I don't expect. It's there's an accident, or somebody gets hurt, or somebody dies, and some side door opens that I was never expecting. It's like, it's that chaos, that unexpected unknown in every action. That every door it opens, there's a new door. And so, like, that's kind of what you're pointing to, is that reminder of that, no matter what outcome and goal we're focused on, usually the most important, impactful things that open up are not what we expect.
Exactly. Ben Sweetland said, success is the journey, not the destination. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, and knowing that there's a greater good at the end of the rainbow. Once you get to the end of the rainbow, quite often when I talk to people, I like to refer to myself as the Wizard of Oz. But remember, when they got to their end destination, when they met the wizard, and what did he do? He just pointed out to them that they had everything that they were already looking within themselves. So, if you focus on that higher purpose, shifting your consciousness, and amazing things will happen.
Yeah, I love it. That's so powerful what you're saying. I'm going to check in with our audience real quick. We'll get right back to it with Robert, but I want to take this opportunity to invite you all to share your story on this stage. You, as I said before, when we first started, you have a unique experience. You've been through circumstances and through your unique life experience that no one else has gone through. And you have gifts to share. You have a contribution that is uniquely valuable to us all. And really, what you've experienced in the wisdom and the insight and the gifts and the poems and the art and everything that you've created from your experience is beneficial to us all. Like, really, what you've gone through is something that we can all gain your wisdom and insight from. And I want to really invite you, encourage you to share your gift on this stage. That's why we are here. This is about you sharing your gift in a way that contributes to us all. And that's really part of what our one-day mission here is. We are about bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. That's one story at a time, one poem at a time, one story, one piece of wisdom. And this is an open invitation for you to participate and be a partner in this vision with us. So now I'm going to welcome back Robert.
About his diversity. And I think the more that we look at everything as a commonality, it's one of the things I said, God made us all in his likeness. And so if you stop thinking about diversity, if people stop thinking about diversity, I don't care what color your skin is, where you came from, what your gender is, look at us all as togetherness, as oneness, not diverse.
Yes, and I love the way you put that, because it's the word diversity is a trigger word, because it implies separation.
Yes,
and that's very much part of what the mission is. It is like, it is not only are we interconnected in this world, but it's what we focus on the things that aren't really us, like what language we speak, what race we are, and it's like we build these constructs to divide something that is inherently singular. Like we all are cut from the same cloth. We're all, as you said, we're all children of God, made in his likeness. Like we are all, like there's no exception to that. And we pretend that that's not the case. And
if we can help shift the consciousness of that one thought, and from diversity to oneness. We are all one. We're all here to do good. Good. I mean, I don't think good and evil. I want to think about greatness. And that's what really we want to focus on. How can we make a difference? Again, we're on this planet for such a short time in relationship to the how long the planet has been around. So how can we make a difference in the short time that we're going to be here? And the more that we can all shift the consciousness of that, so there isn't the judgment, the violence that was happening. It was like, for example, one of the times when I was over in Thailand speaking, and I took a picture, there was hundreds of thousands of people on the street because they wanted a change in the government. There was no violence, not like what happened in the US. They were able to demonstrate in a peaceful manner. We need to come together. We need to change the consciousness of what's going on and come together with unity.
Yes, I love it. I think that's a very, very powerful point, and it's and what's interesting for me, and this came up when we met, and I'll share this with you because it's all too synchronistic. But Bob Dylan was someone who opened up the door for me to discover myself, and I actually read his in college. So in college, I read his poem, "Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie," and it rocked my world in ways that I'm still feeling the ripples because, it's like what you're saying. It's like it's that discovery of that oneness. It's that discovery of who we are. It's not intellectual thought. It's not a piece of knowledge. And a lot of my life I pursued truth like it was something I could read in a book. And when I read that poem in college, it opened up the door for me to really see that I don't know. Like it's like the questions Bob asked made me see the mystery, the wonder, the power, in the power of his words, what it invoked in me, the questions that there's no answers to, and if Bob Dylan wrote a song that said, "You need to find yourself, you need to find God," I would have never found myself or found God. It was the question, it was the inquiry that made me willing to look. And it's like, and that's what I see as the powerful access of human expression and art and humanities art is very much the invitation to discover for ourselves, to get to get out of our own programming, to get out of our own thought patterns that are just on autopilot. But Bob opened up that door for me to be willing to look. And that my spiritual journey began when I read that poem without even knowing it.
Yep. And as you know, Bob and I are distantly related. I've never met him, never talked to him, but his mother was at my wedding. And so there was that connection there.
Yeah.
And I put it out to the universe that someday I'll actually have a conversation. I don't know if we'll ever meet, and I don't know if I'll actually ever have a conversation. But again, it's the power of intention. And if I put it out there enough, it might happen. We'll see.
Absolutely. Well, maybe he'll join us here. We'll invite him. I really see, you sharing your story, people sharing their experiences is the kind of it's if there was a recipe or a for experiencing the invitation to experience that, it is vulnerability plus authenticity, and it's when we are authentic about where we've been inauthentic, when we are vulnerable, strong about where we've been weak, and we share it. It has this superpower that it gives others who are going through the same thing, who feel like maybe they're the only person who's feeling that. It's like, wait, I'm not the only person. Like it gives others the courage to be triumphant where they feel like they're falling. And it's like, and that's kind of where I see this power and this ever spinning circle of transformation. When we actually share ourselves vulnerably, it allows others to do the same.
I would agree, and I think that's what the format that you put together. I think that's what Clubhouse is doing. And right now it's only an Apple, but supposedly Androids is going to be there within a month. But you're hearing more and more people that are getting into this room and being vulnerable and releasing and sharing with other people, and other people are realizing that, again, it goes back to oneness. Some people are hurting, but there's a lot of people that are reaching out a hand to helping some of these people that are hurting. In fact, I've got a conversation with a guy later today that served some time in prison because he was in a DUI. And, you know, things have changed. He's out now, but they've changed while he was there. He wasn't, I mean, it might have been there for 6 years, but, you take a look at all the things that are changing. I mean, in my journey as an entrepreneur over the last 35 years, it's like there was no Google, there was no Amazon, there was no Uber, there was no, and how a lot of these companies that have come into being have had a, for the most part, have had a positive impact on what's happening.
Right. Yeah. That's and that's the opportunity, and like kind of back to what you're saying. It's like when we discover that choice we have, and when we can have intention, like when we can recognize ourselves for who we really are, and as you're saying, when we can be aware of what it is that what we are trying to bring, the gifts that we have in us that we were born with to share with everybody. When we have the intention and give attention and take the actions to stand in that and what we have to share. I feel like it's like when we can show up to ourselves, that's when we can show up to our communities. Just like what I heard in you sharing your stories, like when we show up to our authentic self, that's what allows us to contribute to others, and we actually see ourselves in others. And every spiritual distinction, even non-spiritual distinction, has some variation and valuing of the golden rule. Love thy neighbor as thyself, do unto others how you want to be treated. And I see there's a reason that there's not an exception. Every single spiritual distinction has some version of that. And I think that's because it's such a universal truth. It's like loving your neighbor is the same thing as loving yourself, because we pretend to sweep under the rug, whether it's all the toxicities of the generational conversations, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual. When we sweep those under the rug, there's an impact that we sometimes we probably don't even see. But when we are in denial about the impact of our toxicities and our inauthenticities, that's how we get where we've been. And what's opening up is where we're going is more awareness to who we are and who we can be together when we choose today to stand in that future that we're living into.
Yep. Totally true. The more that we acknowledge and release the things that are holding us back. And that reminded me of a story that I heard a while back about this young guy that wanted to see if he could fool this wise master. And so he comes to the master and he's got a bird in his hand. And he says, Master, master, or wise man, I've got a bird in my hand. Is it alive or dead? And so the wise man thought for a second. And knowing the fact that if he said it was dead, the young boy would open his hands and let the bird fly away. Or if he said it was alive, the boy would, before he opened his hands, squish, close them close together, killing the bird. So the wise man responded. He says, son, you've got the power or the fate of that bird in your hands. If people realize that they've got the power to make a positive difference, it's just a choice to make sure that they do that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like when we recognize how everything we do, every smile, smirk, every frown, every handshake or fist we extend, every word we make, kept or broken, not only has an impact, but it ripples across the entire course of the universe. Like we are that powerful. Yep. And it's like every choice we make affects everything.
Yeah. We and the words, for example, when people ask you, how are you? A simple question of that. And what do most people say? Good? And all they want to be is good? I mean, I don't have the same answer, but it's like fantastic, phenomenal, continually getting better, because those words vibrate through our being. So, it's understanding just the little things that we can change and what kind of impact it can have in the things that we do.
Mm, yeah, I love it. I really think that's a really powerful point. And Robert, I really appreciate you being with us and sharing your story and your wisdom and those beautiful stories and it's such a it's an honor and a privilege to have you share with us your experiences, and it's just really my pleasure to have you. So thank you for being with us, Robert.
It was my pleasure, and just hopefully something, a couple of the things I might have said will have a positive impact on one or more people, and then it was well worth it.
Absolutely. Well, I can say it has for me, and I know it has for others as well. So just thank you so much, Robert. Really just honor you and appreciate you being with us, and I hope you come back and share more with us again soon.
Sounds good, Abraham. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And for those of you at home, thank you for hanging with us. Really, again, I want to encourage you and invite you to share your story on this stage. That's why we're here, is to share what you've experienced, to contribute and benefit us all. And it's like, and when we standing there, what's possible when we're all sharing the gifts that we have? What we have 8 billion people on this world. If everybody shares a gift, that's 8 billion gifts. If that's just one gift per person, and like we all have so much to contribute to each other, and when we have that intention to rise together, sharing our gifts, that's when whole new realms of what's possible for humanity open. And that's really what our vision here is. One day is humanity rising in a connected world with each person's unique gifts, contributions, genius being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's what we're committed to here, and that's why we hold this space. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you again, Robert Butwin, for joining us. I will see you all next week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, be well, and as always, one day is today. Peace, everybody.